The metallic scrape of steel on asphalt. A sound like fingernails dragged across a chalkboard. Ripped through the morning's deceptive calm. My heart seized. What in the world was that? I flung open my front door. The usual morning sun blinding me for a split second. Only to be replaced by a horrifying, glinting reality. There they were, a series of razor-sharp, tire-shredding spike strips, neatly arrayed across my driveway. Karen. It had to be Karen. Again. My blood ran cold. Then hot. How dare she? The audacity. The sheer, unmitigated gall. I took a deep, shuddering breath, trying to steady the earthquake rumbling through my chest. My hands balled into fists, trembling with a fury so profound it felt like it would tear through my skin. This wasn't just another passive-aggressive note about my improperly trimmed rose bushes or a snide comment about my unapproved shade of blue mailbox. This was a calculated act of vehicular assault. This was dangerous. A choked gasp escaped my lips as I pictured my tires. My beautiful, brand-new tires. Instantly gutted. Or worse. What if my elderly neighbor had been delivering her famous lemon meringue pie this morning? What if a child on a bike had innocently rolled over them? Oh, the sheer recklessness. Karen. My voice, usually calm and composed, cracked like dry wood. The woman in question, already perched on her immaculate porch swing, sipping tea as if observing a particularly delightful bird feeder, merely raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. Her lips, painted in a shade of pink that screamed, "I dictate good taste," curved into a chillingly smug smile. "Good morning, dear. Lovely day, isn't it?" Her voice, saccharine and sickly sweet, grated on my nerves. I could feel the heat radiating from my face. A blush of indignation spreading like wildfire. "Lovely," I scoffed, my voice rising. "You call this lovely? Are you out of your mind? What are those things doing on my property?" My finger jabbed accusingly at the glistening metal teeth. She sighed. A delicate, put-upon sound, as if I were a particularly obtuse child. "Why? Those are merely deterrents, darling. To ensure proper adherence to HOA regulations regarding driveway egress and ingress. Your vehicle, you see, occasionally encroaches upon the common area during its turning maneuvers." Common area. My driveway. This was pure fabrication. A ludicrous lie spun from her twisted sense of superiority. My jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth might shatter. My vehicle has never, not once, encroached on anything but my own property. This is a public road, Karen. And my driveway is my driveway. These are illegal. You could cause a serious accident. Her smile didn't waver. "Oh, I assure you, everything is perfectly legal. I've consulted with the HOA board. They're very supportive of proactive measures." Proactive measures. My blood boiled. This was beyond the pale. Just then, a sleek, black sedan pulled up, windows tinted, and a smartly dressed man in a crisp suit emerged. My heart sank. Was this another one of her cronies? Another unsuspecting victim she had roped into her delusional crusade? But then he looked at me. A quick, almost imperceptible nod, before turning to Karen with an air of professional detachment. "Ms. Davies," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "I'm attorney Mark Jensen. We need to discuss the situation." Karen's smile faltered, just for a fleeting moment. Her eyes darted from him to me. A flicker of uncertainty. Jensen. The name echoed in my mind. Where had I heard that name before? Suddenly, a faint memory surfaced. Mark Jensen. The lawyer who had taken on the notorious pigeon poop class action case in the next county over. The one who had dismantled the HOA that tried to fine residents for bird droppings on their roofs. A tiny spark of hope flickered within me. Timid at first, then growing into a defiant blaze. Jensen, without preamble, pulled out a tablet. "According to our recent survey, commissioned specifically due to multiple complaints regarding your eccentric enforcement methods, this entire area, including the first 3 feet of Ms. Chen's driveway, is indeed private property. It falls squarely within her legal boundaries. He gestured to a detailed digital map. Karen's face, usually so composed, began to crack. Her lips quivered. That's impossible. The HOA bylaws clearly state. Jensen held up a hand. The HOA bylaws. Ms. Davies. Cannot supersede established property lines. Furthermore, your recent actions, specifically the deployment of these deterrents, which, I might add, are a clear violation of city ordinance regarding dangerous obstructions on private property, constitute vandalism, reckless endangerment, and potentially assault with a deadly weapon. His voice was calm, almost unnervingly so, but each word landed like a hammer blow. My breath hitched. Assault with a deadly weapon. The gravity of the situation hit me with a chilling force. This wasn't just a petty squabble anymore. This was serious. Karen stared at the tablet, her eyes wide, her carefully constructed facade crumbling before my very eyes. Deadly weapon, she whispered, her voice a thin, reedy sound. Don't be ridiculous. But the certainty in Jensen's voice, the professional poise, chipped away at her bravado. Ms. Davies, he continued. We have multiple eyewitness accounts from delivery drivers, mail carriers, and even your own landscaper, detailing your repeated threats and aggressive behavior towards residents who, in your opinion, violate the imaginary rules you've imposed. We also have security footage from Ms. Chen's camera, showing you placing these very spike strips this morning. My jaw dropped. Security footage. Of course. My small, discreet doorbell camera, installed after a previous misunderstanding about a package delivery, had captured everything. A wave of vindication, sweet and potent, washed over me. Karen's face, already pale, turned a ghastly shade of green. Her eyes darted wildly, searching for an escape, a loophole, anything to cling to. That camera, that's an invasion of privacy. She shrieked, her voice cracking. Jensen merely smiled, a slight, almost imperceptible tilt of his lips. It's on Ms. Chen's private property, facing her private property. Perfectly legal. Ms. Davies. Now, as for the damages to Ms. Chen's tires, which, providentially, she did not drive over this morning thanks to my timely arrival, we will be seeking full compensation. And the punitive damages for emotional distress, the endangerment of life, and the sheer maliciousness of your actions will be significant. He didn't need to say more. The air crackled with tension, a palpable silence that screamed of consequences. Karen, the once unflappable empress of the HOA, was visibly shaking. Her perfectly coiffed hair seemed to droop. Her designer clothes suddenly looked ill-fitting. The sound of distant sirens began to grow, faint at first, then rapidly approaching. My heart hammered against my ribs. A drum solo of anticipation and trepidation. Was this really happening? Was her reign of terror finally coming to an end? Two uniformed officers emerged from the police cruiser, their expressions grim. One, a tall, imposing woman, looked directly at Karen. Ms. Davies, we've received multiple complaints. Is this your doing? Karen stammered, her voice a tangled mess of incoherent protests. But it's for the HOA. She's violating the rules. The officer, unimpressed, simply pointed to the spike strips. These are a public hazard, ma'am, and highly illegal. Mr. Jensen here has provided ample evidence, including video footage, of you placing them. Karen looked at me then, her eyes filled with a desperate, pleading look I'd never seen before. Gone was the smug superiority, replaced by a raw, unadulterated fear. A small, involuntary sigh escaped my lips. It wasn't triumph I felt. Not entirely. More like a profound exhaustion. A weariness from years of her petty tyranny. Ms. Davies, the male officer said, his voice firm. You're under arrest for reckless endangerment and felony vandalism. Please place your hands behind your back. Karen let out a choked cry, a sound of utter disbelief. Arrest? for this. This is outrageous. I demand to speak to my lawyer. I demand to speak to the HOA president. But her words, once so potent, now held no power. The cold click of handcuffs echoed in the quiet morning air. She was led, stumbling slightly, towards the police car. Her once regal posture now slumped. Defeated, her eyes, filled with tears, met mine one last time. There was no hatred now, just a profound, agonizing regret. What a bitter pill to swallow. The police car pulled away, its siren a mournful wail fading into the distance. The silence that followed was not empty, but heavy with the weight of change. Mr. Jensen turned to me, a compassionate smile on his face. You handled that with remarkable restraint. Ms. Chun. This was a long time coming. I managed a weak smile in return, feeling the tension slowly drain from my body, leaving me utterly spent. The morning air, once oppressive, now felt lighter, clearer. The sunlight, once harsh, now seemed to sparkle. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? When does community enforcement become personal vendetta? When does a perceived right become a blatant wrong? This whole ordeal leaves us to ponder. Where do we draw the line between maintaining order and trampling on individual rights? What are your thoughts on this? Was Karen truly a villain? Or just misguided? Was my response justified? Or could I have handled it differently? Let's discuss where the lines of right and wrong truly lie.